For the first time in a long time, I actually built myself a Self-MOC Turaga, in fact. So probably my first ever Self-MOC Turaga. Before we get to that, though, I have another build I'm extremely proud of that I want to go ahead and showcase. Be sure you're subscribed. It really helps the channel out. And apologies for the color, but hopefully you'll understand why in a moment. My camera sucks at showcasing white, so I had to mess around with the color a little bit in order to get this to show up properly. But I really think it deserves it. This is a fantastic design. I'm proud of it because I made it, of course, but also because Kopaka is one of those characters I've really struggled with designing or revamping in the past. My previous G2 Master Kopaka was kind of like this royal regal type character using mata blue and white and like gold, and I just did not like that character design at all. It wasn't unique, you know? Like when I see a brute Liwa, that's something I've never really seen before, and it makes sense for a character like that, but never for Liwa in my head. It was a subversion of that character, but it was a characterization that I could really get behind, and this is much the same way. These wing pieces here are absolutely phenomenal. Quick plug, of course, because a lot of this character would not be possible for Zion Tyros, their store, their services, because these wing pieces, yes, Lego made them in this color. They're unfortunately a little uncommon because they did not come out in the US. So yeah, having bootleg ones for like, I don't know, 25 or 50 cents or whatever is really phenomenal. But more notably, the shadow traps never came out in trans blue. The bootlegs of those, yes, please, of course. And they look phenomenal on this character. It's not to say you couldn't use the gunmetal ones. In fact, you absolutely could. And maybe I will try and check that out in the future. But ultimately, I had to try it with these trans blue ones since I had them, and it looks wonderful. I really think that there are two things that make this character go above and beyond. Maybe more, but mostly two things. Those custom shoulder builds, which are actually reasonably straightforward, and then, of course, the stickers on the torso. A lot of stickers, I know. I thought I'd hate it. I always talk about how, you know, like the G2 torso for the Uniter sets just had way too much detail on it. This is detail, but it's like detail in the right way. And I think it's because it competes with those shoulders, right? The shoulders having that much texture on them is a lot of detail in a small space, and this helps to just tie it together, if that makes sense. But speaking of those shoulder builds, hopefully this is something you can kind of parse yourself. It is just the shadow trap attached directly to the top of a socket, and then using an Exoforce hand clip piece attached directly to one of those Chima wings there. The overall build is reasonably straightforward, but it comes together to end up being something that looks phenomenal in my opinion. But of course, the character doesn't really stop there. It is carrying my redesign of the Nuju Ice pick for Generation 2. I call it the Crow's Beak because it's black, but I did design it so that it could be built in all white. All of the pieces on it are available in white as well, and it's just such a lovely build. Since I'm kind of leaning into using the Turaga weapons for the Toa characters at this point, I figured it just made a whole lot of sense to work with something. Why, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know what I mean? So yeah, really happy with that design. The arm here is the shoulder gun. It is attached directly to the arm, but it's attached in multiple places to kind of become that lower arm, which really works out. The fur piece helping to, again, sort of bring texture to that area, of course, and cover some otherwise empty space, but also it again sort of harkens back to those wing pieces or those shadow trap pieces, which you can kind of see as like jaws or something, right? So ultimately giving the character a sort of hunter-esque vibe. The launcher just shoots by rotating the launcher itself. Simple enough. It's an easy way to do it. Why, again, if it ain't broke? And yeah, I really adore this build. So super happy with it. There are some other characters that I have built here. One I'm going to show off very quickly before I get to the Self-MOC is this version of Pohatu. I've talked about him in a previous video already. I have him partially built in front of me again, but not fully. However, he's basically not being changed at all, except for the weapons, of course. I'm not a huge fan of the double flail thing I had going on in the past here, so I'm probably going to go to the hammer build that I came up with for my Oniwa G2 build. Again, why not? It works. And overall, I'm just otherwise really happy with this build. Might be a few little things that I end up tweaking, but this is kind of like a explorer adventurer type character, right? But you know, he's got like a drone, he's got a little screen that pops out of his arm, so he's sort of like this future, I don't know, I really like it overall. And it's worth noting too that I've got some stickers now on his shoulders too, to just end up filling out the sticker thing more, tying the characters together more with that aesthetic, that concept. And lastly, now to the Self-MOC, which I'm pretty happy with, though granted, again, my camera's not going to do a great job in this video displaying greens, especially the lime green here, which looks a little bit washed out and a little muddy, but there are a few reasons why I built the character this way. It combines a lot of some of my favorite things that I've done over the years. For one thing, my favorite weapon from Bionicle, and I've talked about this in the past, is the air katana. The fact that I have bootlegs of them in lime green, and it's my favorite recolor of that piece, it just made sense to really work with that. Plus, my favorite resin cast that I've ever done being the stippled dark turquoise to black Matatu here. So ultimately, it just made a whole lot of sense to pair those two together, right? And of course, dark turquoise, lime green, classic Kongu color combination, alliteration, and of course the weapon, again, the crow's beak, but it's just because I'm so proud of it. I really love it. However, this time featuring purple Borak eyes, which are not the official ones, because I don't care for the official ones very much. I do have them, but they're less saturated. They're less of a pure purple. Purple is my favorite color. So of course, I went with the bootleg ones, which will look far better. Again, you can get those from Zion Tyros as well. Enough plugs, I know. That said, on the upper arms, it is featuring the Vorok's armor. It is my favorite armor from G1 Bionicle, so that made sense. And then, of course, the foot build, which is actually my build for my Titan Tahu, which I need to make a new video on, an updated video on, but it is the build for his foot minus the guard that goes over the top of it. I really am super happy with how this build came out overall, and I really just think it's a phenomenal way to sort of feature a lot of the history of mine over the past few years. The lime green unprinted, armor piece in the center there, which is like the slicer head, I don't know what the hell that piece is called, the Nuijaga tail, whatever, little things like that. It is, in a lot of ways, aspects of my own history all coming together in one single MOC. And I think that's part of that's the real beauty behind this design overall. Again, might have its own video because the colors here are terrible. But that's going to be it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe. It really helps the channel out tremendously. And of course, as always, Discord and everything in the description. I'll see y'all in the next one. Stay warm. Happy late Thanksgiving. And Kopaka should be coming to Discord soon. The other two are on the Discord as of now. They should be anyway. Anyway, take care.